I'm really, really psyched you're here. I wanted to give this workshop for ages. Burp Suite workshop helped change the trajectory of my professional life, and I wanted data security to have a little more of that going on. So yeah, hi. My name is Breanne. I work at Gusto. I work in product security engineering. Gusto is well represented here among our TAs. I live in Brooklyn as of 4 months ago. Before then, I lived in Oakland. So hello, recent neighbors. I've used Burp Suite as something on my resume to say like, hello, I know in security, you should definitely hire me for this. And I've seen it be really powerful, and that's why I wanted to be here today. And also because I'm doing a tech talk, that pictures, of course, are legally mandated. This is Vincent Valentine. He is wonderful and insured, like all good cats. So today we have 3 TAs. We have Carla, who is the engineering manager of product security engineering at Gusto. We have Isaac, who's in detection engineering at Gusto, and we have Christina, who shockingly is not at Gusto, but we used to work together. If you have any questions whatsoever, raise your hand, wave them over. You know, it's better when it's collaborative. Like, your questions are incredibly welcome. I've got some stuff for you to do, but I promise everyone in here knows something that not everyone else does. And that's when classes get really, really fun. So like, please talk. You are encouraged to. It's also cool if you want to just sit back and just know that you're like, what is that? Please ask. So what we're doing today, my hope as ever is just like, you get to walk out with a new skill you can cite on your resume. Along with just like some different applications for Burp Suite, which are good for things like bug bounty stuff through HackerOne or Bug Crowd, but also like competitions like Capture the Flags and also regular old work. What we're especially going to be doing is what I have most often used Burp Suite to do, which is intercepting and altering HTTP requests. We'll also be doing a little bit of messing with input validation, and then the biggest, weirdest thing, which is brute forcing passwords. I want you to walk out of here knowing where to follow up on those basics later. What we're not going to do, because we have 2 hours, is an exhaustive tour of everything Burp does, because that not only would be a book, but literally has been, and not a workshop. But I want to give you a place to get started so that you don't look at the tabs and just go, oh my God, what do I even start with?
It's just something to give us.
The other goal, just because we are talking about messing with servers, I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, specifically, the reason that we're using a Docker image for Juice Shop is that it's yours. You can mess with it, you can wreck it, you can do whatever you want. No legal trouble. Whereas if you point this at a site you don't own or don't mess with, interesting legal things happen. And I desperately do not want that to happen to anyone in this room. So we want to use it for assets you own, things you've been contracted with a good, clear, legally binding contract saying this person is allowed to poke this thing during these dates, or part of a CTF where you've been invited to wreck stuff, basically. There's a reason that in pen testing engagements, companies often will give pen testers access to like a demo environment or a like slimmed down dupe of CROD. And that's because it's a better day when no one has to get entangled with the 5.0. Rough schedule, and you can make fun of me later if you hear why I'm doing this, but just to give you an idea of like where your brain might need to be. For the next 23 minutes, we're going to just go through some of the Burp tabs just so that you get the lay of the land in the neighborhood. And then the middle hour, we're going to have challenges, which you can work on individually, but you know, like I said, the more you chime in, the cooler it gets. So let's work together too. And then the last half hour, I want to try to leave for questions, both generally about Burp, but also you are in a room with not only like security TAs, but a lot of people with a lot of different experience. Like, I want people to walk out feeling informed and empowered. So there'll be time at the end to ask whatever you got. A little bit about what to expect. I have social anxiety. I like to know what people are going to do when I'm in a room like this. I will not cold call on anyone. I hate that. So don't worry about that. If you just want to lay low, you have room to do that. Totally fine. But I've mentioned in multiple conference talks, I will bribe you. I am not above that or many other things. I have a pile of stickers, and every time you talk, you will get a puffy sticker that I cut out today from sheets of them that I got at Target this morning. So like, you don't have to, but I am incentivizing you to do my bidding, and will appreciate it if you do. It's fine if you don't though. You have the option of just going like, hey, I've got a question. But if you do just want to go like at one of the TAs and have a quiet aside, that's totally fine. The goal is just that you get to know the things you want to know. If you don't understand something, I have definitely felt that feeling of being in a workshop and going like, oh, everyone else just went past me and I am standing still and I'm so confused and small. I would like you to not feel that way if we can, so please ask, and that includes time after I'm gonna be around. I have worn my most visible pants. I can be found. It means I want you to talk to me. So please don't go home with avoidable questions. They're really good for conferences. Yeah, we can wrap up every challenge just by walking through it, but it is way more interesting if one of you gets super brave and shares. So you are invited to, but as ever, there's a pressure. And yeah, you are a person with the needs of a person. If you need to slip out, have some air, get some water, visit the checkered hallway full of toilets, you know, that's completely fine. You're not bothering anyone. All right, so we're going to talk just broadly about what is Burp Suite and what does it do. Spoiler, it's a whole lot. We'll look through the tabs, hands-on work, and then I'll leave you with some resources. The PDF slides are linked in Slack, so the links are actively available. Okay, to start, does anyone not have Burp Suite, Docker, and the Juice Shop image like ready, good to go on your computer? Because, okay. Carla, would you mind stepping with that?
I have an extra MacBook, luck for you. This morning when I. Partially because.
Okay, we'll give that a couple of minutes.
Because, my battery might be dead. No. All right. Yeah. I'll give you this one because it's ready to go. Wow. Like just maybe over prepared. I'm Christina. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, thank you for being exactly as prepared as you are. It's wonderful. Okay, does anyone else need a hand or links? Okay, you too. Lou, you're also equipping your computer, right? Would you mind helping our friend in the back too? I can try.
Yeah, so basically to explain what's happening here, there's a Docker downloaded, ran a couple commands, pressed go. What else did I do? To be fair, I haven't done JS was installed. I just all this stuff was installing Node. Install Burp Suite and then opening it up. I don't know if I did this right.
She is strategic minutes. Who's doing it?
Yeah, I just use up all of my conference. Like, it's not weird.
I honestly completely missed it when I was looking at the room earlier. I was like, huh, no plugs.
No, I work in IT. Yeah.
Slack channel, did you post the links and
I will post it in conference session resources now. 1 second.
It is my job.
oh, I see.
I am, yeah. I work for a company called Joby Fusion.
They are now in conference session resources.
Burp Suite.
And Marina.
Yep. That's it. With the hope and the fervent, like just praying.
British.
It'll go easy.
They're trying to build an air taxi service by 2025.
Wow. I got to there last night. Ben VM.
Oh, I see.
No.
Honestly, same.
Magic Drive.
Just started in
Need a sticker.
Oh, no, it's beautiful. It's a good place to go. I learned that you could make laughter.
I think it's gonna
Flash drives.
run one track.
Oh, yes.
Approval from security to install Burp Suite on our. Yes, that's here.
Okay.
We never did. Yes.
Okay, I know some folks are still getting everything started. I'm gonna start the little tour of stuff.
Oh, there we go.
All right, just out of curiosity, folks who chose to take this as a learner today, what do you know about Burp Suite and what it can do? Like, do you know just a handful of functions that it can do? I'll go to you first.
Oh, me or a different person?
Person behind you, then you, then Cynthia.
Oh, I primarily use it for CTFs.
Nice. Excellent. Hey, Christina. Or actually, Carla, would you be used to delivery mechanism? All right, for CTFs, excellent. And you?
We use it to validate, bug bounty reports. So, yeah, intercepting and modifying requests.
Yeah, validating bug bounty reports, intercepting and modifying requests. That is most of what I use it for at my job right now too. Cynthia, what you use?
Just mostly for CTFs and just kind of, yeah, mostly trying to solve CTF challenges and stumbling.
Yeah, solving CTF challenges, stumbling on the way to excellent victory. That's very much in the vein of what we're going to be doing as our examples today. So yeah, Burp is best known for its proxy functions. It intercepts requests that you make before they hit the server or the container, whatever you're pointing it at. And we're using, most of us anyway, are using the community version today, which has some limitations, but even the limited version does a lot of stuff. You can capture requests, you can alter them or repeat them. There are different ways of swapping out parameters to see what can happen. Yeah, so if you want to try like lots of different emails, lots of different passwords, it enables you to do a lot of exploring to see like where the weird or weak points of the system are. There are other tools that do some similar things that come up in the way of regular dev work. Postman, which is really good for iterating with an API. I've seen people use that in a security way really well. It's not as robust as Burp, but it's pretty rad. Good old curl on the command line can do a lot of this stuff. It just involves a lot more like copying and pasting and being a little more finicky. And then Zap from OWASP comes pretty close too. So it's just some vocabulary. Would anyone be so kind as to define a host for us? It's cool if you talk before. What you got?
It's like host is a server where the application is hosted.
Perfect, yeah. Proxy, I basically touched on. It's something that sits between 2 points. It can be between a browser, also called a client, and a server. It can also just literally be a person who's an intermediary. What can anyone tell me about HTTP requests and responses? It's a big subject, so what you got?
Routers pass through requests that can use a number of different verbs, like just get requests to pull something down or post requests to modify something. And then responses come, there's headers on each HTTP requests for things like authentication, authorization that are fun to change in a proxy. And responses come with codes. You've probably seen like a 404 or a 200 is the one that says something worked.
Great and super relevant to today. They have verbs explaining what they're asking the server to do for them. There are lots of different headers. There are ones you'll always see, but there are others that just swap in and out depending on what's going on. And you get response codes telling you whether the server was like, looks good, awesome, or most of the rest of them are varying degrees of like, huh? The server being confused is kind of the sweet spot for some of what we're doing. We want unexpected side effects to come from the things that we poke at. So let's get into the tabs. Welcome to Burp. I found it overwhelming when I first looked at it. You know, that's a lot of verbs up at the top, which are evocative, if not necessarily immediately specific. So this is where you land after you first start a project. When you open it, it'll be like, do you want to start a project? We can't save anything, so using it's fine. And then you land here where there is nothing populated because we haven't done anything yet. What we want to do is set up a passive crawl to happen. That way, when we do more clicking around and exploring, it is just watching and learning on our so are at this point, if you have it open and looking at it, get that crawl going if it didn't automatically. If any of what I just said is confusing,
We might get that.
like the live passive crawl. We can keep poking at it. It is honestly a nice to have for what we're trying to do today, but it's a good thing to be aware of. So one thing you can do is set scope. This will matter a little bit less today because what we're looking at is so much more constrained. If you're looking at a regular website, it is going to be firing requests to a bunch of third parties. It gets really messy and cluttered in there. So instead, if you follow the instructions with the ports that are included in the command I put in Slack, our host is localhost :3000, and that's what you want your scope to be. So that is the thing you can add there to narrow that down if you're looking at this in greater depth later. Yeah,
What's a Slack channel?
I just put it in the conference resources Slack channel. You might have to scroll up a little bit for it if other people have been saying things.
Oh, got it.
You got it? Okay, thank you. All right, so next tab is target. Again, this is what you see when it's just a new project and nothing is happening yet. The most important button right here is open browser, because that is where we'll be visiting Juice Shop today. So when you get that Chromium browser up, you have your Docker container up and running. And if you don't, raise your hand, we'll get you there. Just put localhost :3000 in. And if Docker is doing its Docker thing, Juice Shop should be before you. How's that going? I see a lot of pensiveness.
Got it.
Okay, we have a success. Cool.
Until I was staring at it.
Actually, programmers.
Yeah, one of my coworkers was telling me about an app that disables all the keys until you re-enable it. So you can, as long as you don't hit the power button anyway.
It's a lovely IT guys.
Is anyone else having it?
Can't get it.
Looked it up.
This is actually. Oh, no, the first thing.
people are troubleshooting to talk for a second about the different ways you can do that. So older versions up until about early 2020, maybe a little earlier, you had to do a highly involved setting up of a proxy where you had to install a cert locally and get your browser to play nice with it. The built-in Chromium browser makes this much simpler, but the old version is still available and it can be useful for different kinds of work. People tend to prefer it if they have like a really custom setup of plugins or extensions in Chrome or Firefox, which let them do more. You will know if you get to the point in this work where you need to do that. For me and my bug bounty stuff at work, I have not found this necessary, but other people have preferences, and that's one way. So those instructions still exist, but so far as just like get it done, the built-in browser is lovely, and I was very excited when it first showed up.
Certificate in
How are people doing with arguing with Docker?
Just like I have too much stuff open. So, yeah. Anyway.
Go. Because intercept is on.
I did check.
Waiting for you.
Okay, for those of you for whom Docker is being an obstruction, which is one of the things it does really well, honestly, when it's not being amazing and just working. This is what the target tab looks like once you have traffic flowing through it. So if you have it working, open your built-in Burp browser and type in :3000, and then just click around and you'll start seeing this tab fill up. Like sitemap is one way to look at it. What we're going to end up learning tab, but this is a good way just to go like, yes, success. Burp is actually observing things. And okay.
It's probably.
So the, that.
You just need to make sure that the crawl is toggled on. Yeah. And then that should be it. Hey, how's everyone else doing? Good? Okay, awesome. Let's talk about scope for reducing just what you see in this view. The sub-tab next to sitemap scope, if you just want to go and add under include in scope, localhost :3000. And this one doesn't use subdomains, but if you were doing this in an ordinary way for a site, you'd want to include subdomains just so that it gathers everything. This is something you can also do from the traffic itself. You can right click it and just go like, please include this in scope. What you want to do is just get it as broad as you can that supports what you're actually wanting to look at. And in our case, pretty much everything that's localhost :3000 and on will be relevant to what we're trying to do today. So this is a really good start just for going, yes, this is what I want to see. If later you start seeing clutter in another tab, you can come back here and add exclude from scope. And then there's a filter that we do just so that it's not 10,000 things to scroll through because no one needs that. All right, next tab, proxy. Welcome to Intercept, which is both your best friend and your worst enemy. It will be on when you don't want it to be on, and you will stop and just go, why is this not working? Why is nothing loading? Always check Intercept first. It's kind of like if you get a weird Docker error, make sure Docker is running. Everyone does this sometimes. So we want it to be off for what we're doing. You would want it to be on if you were looking for something really finely and you want to examine every single request that comes in. It'll bring up the request and you can either forward, meaning like, I don't need this, go ahead. You can drop it and stop it from getting through, or you can mess with it. So yeah, just if at any point during this, something's acting hinky and you're like, why does this page not load? Just check with Intercept. It's really good basic troubleshooting with Burp and make your days a little less sad. Here's what we'll be looking at more today, though. HTTP history is everything that you see that is not being excluded by scope or so you can see how it's laid out. It shows the host, what method is going on, like what the path is that it's hitting, status code. This is a lot of what's going to be interesting to us today. So what I would like you to do right now is go, in addition to just like clicking around in Juice Shop, go make a user. And just by the way, this kind of just poking around reconnaissance is a really normal part of this work. Whether you're just exploring something for your own use or doing this as part of an engagement, you will be pixel hunting basically and just poking around. So first, please go make a user and then just take a look at what showed up in the history tab and see if you can start to pick apart like what elements went into what you just requested it to do. How are things going in our well-meaning but tragically flawed online juice storefront?
A little database in here.
Louise, what?
Just in case.
How it gives password?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because otherwise it's a whole hour of setting up that cert.
Requirement, it's just advice.
It's the worst possible.
So they're a,
Nonprofit.
yeah, it's like a nonprofit.
Yeah.
And that also, sets web application testing standards.
My computer's like my consortium.
Yeah, I think they are cited in our.
Security.
Yeah, every pen tester.
It's like, no, absolutely not.
Oh,
You're not hacking the pen, it's not gonna work.
Right? Well, I've done it in the emulator, so I have seen all this before.
That is
So funny. Yeah, it just doesn't want to. But no.
It's PowerShell. Can you
Are your history tabs filling up? Are you seeing things come
kill,
in?
kill it?
However,
You saw word.
No, are the history tabs filling up? Are you seeing requests start to? Awesome. Okay.
So that's running as administrator, right? Click on it.
So the way to get that scope filter on, if you happen to be seeing anything else that's astray, is going up at the top and clicking that little funnel next to filter settings, and that will bring up this configure filter. And what you want to check is show only in scope items. And that will keep them more today than it will be if you looked at like an Amazon or a Google. But it can still be really helpful.
it's also able to.
Yeah, Docker. She's running.
Oh, I see what she said.
Yes,
cute
question. It's cute.
All right, now that you're seeing the history come in, does anyone see any interesting requests that you'd like to talk about, highlight, anything compelling?
The passwords in plain text.
Yeah, that's one, like, that's a really interesting kind of request to look for, is just like, what is in that payload?
Also in that payload, there's each user has an ID number that corresponds to the security question it shows.
Yep. Yeah, every user has an ID number, like just that all of that stuff is just put in there. And, for a learning tool, this is appropriate. If you saw something like that, kind of ordinarily, you'd be like, all right, why are we doing that? But yeah, that's your instincts are sound. That's exactly what you want to be looking for. Yeah, so that's a great start, just like seeing what happens when you set up a user. You know, that's something that is changing state on the server. It's something that's worth looking at. Just to see like, you know, what endpoint is it hitting for that? What is it interacting with? Like what's going on? So yes, that's exactly the kind of thing we're looking for. So this is where things start getting interesting. So you can right click that or any other request that you want to mess with, and you can send it to a repeater.
Turn it off.
Good IT work.
Right?
Which one should we try?
Kind of anyone you want, but like the one where it is setting up a user can be a little extra fun just because you get to see like, you know, what safeguards are in place on the other end.
Leave it to me to be the problem.
All right, does anyone have a request in repeater ready to mess with?
So like API users?
That's muscle memory.
Glasses.
Do we have a lab environment?
Good questions.
So we run a lot of the stuff there.
Nice.
So I have seen some of this before.
You come in here.
Yeah, a little bit. Okay.
Make sure Docker is.
Yeah, and looking at this, you now get to see my super secret set of fake credentials I use every time I make a fake user for anything ever. Because then I don't have to remember another one.
Getting started.
So when the request, it looks like this. You get the initial request and then you get the response that was sent originally. And this is where we get to mess with things. So you can try sending it again, see what happens. See, you know, how it corresponds to trying to do something similar, like through a web UI. But from there, if you want to, these are all editable in the request. You can change the email address, you can change the password. If you want to start just messing with things, I mean, all of this is editable. You can, it's not the best way to try to find like secret API endpoints, but you can just change it and send a request and see what happens. So yeah, take a second and just give it a shot. Like what can you edit and what kind of, you know, can you find a response that you might get?
Something's not signed.
Yeah, Jason, by the way, the same thing I said to everything applies to you. Chime in.
Oh, okay. I just came to watch, so.
Watching is also welcome. All right, so folks who are editing things in repeater and sending altered versions, what are you seeing? Is anything interesting coming up?
So I tried to resend it, the original one, and it shot back an error. It said, email must be deleted.
Yeah.
So I just added a to the username.
Okay.
And it made a new.
I mean, it's funny, like yesterday at work, I got a test account that was done the same way, just Breanne.Boland+1. Okay. Yeah, so what is everyone else seeing? Like, what are you trying out? What's it doing for you?
I removed the welcome banner dismissal.
All right, so it sounds like everyone's gotten somewhat acquainted with Repeater. Do a quick aside. So there are many other tabs. We're not going to mess with them as much today, but I just wanted you to get gently acquainted with them. Comparer is useful. It's just a text diff utility, and it can be handy for just going like, is this key different from this one? There's Decoder, which the first time I saw it, it surprised me. It's just a way of encoding and decoding things. So if you get something that you think is encoded in a response, it could be a quick way to see what's actually behind it. And then there's one that is newer called Organizer. You can just send things there basically to clip and save. So just a useful thing I wanted to mention. Just a couple more quick notes, things to know before we dive in further. Would anyone care to explain what a cookie is? Go for it.
It's a little piece of data that often gets left in your browser. It gets used for many things.
Yeah.
It can be used to track, it can be used as login, it can be used for sessions.
Yeah, perfect. Like some of them are more sensitive than others. They're a great thing to mess with in all this. Encoding, which I mentioned with the decoder tab, there are different reasons to encode things. It's not, at best, it's security by obscurity. It's not a way to actually, keep secret, but a lot of times it's used to like save space. And request methods, which came up earlier, are just what you're asking the server to do. The ones we're going to see most often are going to be like get, post, and put, but there's a link in the deck to some of the others, including ones you don't see as often, but are worth knowing. All right, we are right on the edge of doing challenges. Any last questions, anything you'd like answered before we dive into trying to do something? All right. So I know one person has done CTFs. Has anyone, 2 people? 3 people, excellent. So CTFs, capture the flag. It's just a big, it's a term for a type of competition. It's often puzzles. It can replicate real life things, which is one of the reasons I like Juice Shop so much as a learning tool, because a lot is awfully realistic. AppSec is what I've seen most commonly done for these, but there are also infrastructure ones for LLMs have been coming up, which thank God they need all the help they can get. People, you can be solo or in teams. We're all welcome to work together, solve challenges, get flags, rack up points, make friends, achieve your dreams, They're really fun. I recommend doing them, especially if you're interested in doing this kind of work, because there's a lot of this and it's a great way to be exposed to things you might not otherwise. We use Juice Shop as an internal CTF in my company for Security Awareness Month, and people always get really psyched and it's so fun. All right, your first challenge. Can you leave a 0-star review? And this is going back to like poking around the UI. So first, where can you leave a review? And then what does that leave in your HTTP history? What can you mess with? Set a timer for 10 minutes, but we'll check in with you.
Do the command and then. Sure.
Yeah, you discover something awesome, shout it out, raise your hand, like let us learn and celebrate with you. I was gonna ask.
Patient is a virtue.
Right, I got patience.
That's all the best thing.
How do I fix it? I do like to fix it. About why. Download.
Street, right? Okay. You're definitely. This.
Getting him. Or
Oh.
I give to people.
Oh.
It's for you.
Hey, I'll let you choose.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cute.
Almost there.
So. Can't believe it's me. You got it.
At the precise moment.
I was so prepared.
Yeah, hack the.
Right. No. Right. So. Right. Let's go back into this.
Yeah, but the hard part is getting.
That's important.
It's telling me I solved the challenge.
Hey, was it this challenge?
I don't think so.
What challenge does it say you solved?
It says
I tell you what I need less. No.
Nice. I had that happen last night too. I don't know what I did either.
Forget it.
Like more dynamics too. Now you. Silent. Turn it off, turn it on. I do all that.
I don't always set up. Just, oh, this was good. It's easy. So yeah, I just wanted to put on the screen. But I was very excited about that.
If you click on the header.
Now if you go to target, kind of nerd. Or something. Well,
Or do you have,
a little bit slow. Job. The end of the day.
Have folks figured out where to leave a review? Yes.
See?
Is anyone still going, where do I leave this review? What are you talking about? I see nothing. Check on one of the items.
Check out.
Yeah, just like bring up one of the items.
3,000.
Oh,
Yeah, I know that, but
Yeah.
it's just
Refresh the
lighter.
location in the browser. Still, okay, so you might have to go to the doctor, make sure your host is still running.
An account and full.
Capturing.
Saying
Success, I need to disable rename because I saw it come up in the.
the website, that's what happens.
So what is that?
You know what?
okay, sorry, I take it back. Check out customer feedback.
This is
Okay.
just somewhere in between your.
It's in between.
Yeah, just capturing whatever is, so you can,
Nice.
that's what I probably.
Yeah, it doesn't populate one for you and then like, oh, that is where the stars go.
It's
What happens? Yeah. That's how you start breaking the business model.
We changed the destination or something
Exactly,
and then
change something, how it reacts to it.
Especially if you get like the infinite Breanne behind
Yeah,
it.
it's great.
There you go. Like, stop the panic on.
Okay,
But it is.
have folks successfully left the review they intended you to leave? Maybe saying the juice is amazing, maybe saying the juice is 1 star and very poor.
This is very useful.
It's the same.
Now you can try to
So
what is
0-star
that?
review.
What is that? No, I didn't.
Product, see how.
Curious.
They just turn me into her. Breanne had an account.
Oh, here, never mind, maybe.
But this is the law. I didn't create it. Oh, yes.
Which part?
0-star review.
Really?
Like, did you say that it will or won't?
Staying on your
Didn't
computer.
review.
This is the response.
All right, so you got it to do it? Okay. Has anyone else left a 0-star review? How's it going? No? Yeah. All right, cool. Give everyone else a few more minutes to work and then we will talk about ways to solve that. In the meantime, yeah, you all got to see the very cheery green banner confetti throwing that Juice Stuff does, which I really, really like. It's very satisfying. Just like, I did do a thing. Thank you for telling me.
So another. It's, do you have that?
Yeah, because I really knew contact.
But you don't perceive.
I said I did that, yeah, and it was successful. Okay. So I have it, I'll just do it again.
No harm in just.
So here, yes. Later, so.
Thank you.
Better, I'm not gonna try to spend it, it's okay.
Website.
Okay. Let me see. Better.
Still in tech is always fancy.
So what is it?
Yep.
93 and 5.
It counts.
3,000.
At least I got 27.
We already solved a different challenge. Oops.
All right, we have a couple of minutes left before we're gonna reconvene. How's stuff going? Anyone still in pursuit of the 0-star flag?
I guess actually, if you just change the author name, you can.
What do you mean, what does that put in history?
What is what?
What's the second question?
What you can do too.
Just like, basically what's the relevant endpoint? What does,
So then actually click something.
just clicking around just the UI intents, like what does that have pop up so far as the array of requests that you might want to explore or mess with?
How it has it.
Do you have?
I was trying to see what the other, do you remember this one where it says message? And, we're just trying to do the review. That's all it is. The rating 1, user ID, it's missing a user ID. So in this one, you can probably just,
If I remember right, I believe it's in the admin view.
what are those other ones?
Yeah, because since it's customer feedback, like there's a later challenge.
Oh, just mess with this one and.
Customer feedback, which one of the challenges we're going to get to enable you, but we're not directly going to do it today. But that's from what I remember from around
Be easier than.
customer feedback is
I love
admin.
the way you're thinking. Like, oh, we gotta, here's this, here's manual message.
I like something like here, if it's missing something to.
Yeah, so it's good to see.
All right, how is it going? Shall we reconvene? How did that go? I know we had successes.
Yeah, how they do.
Is it good?
What's like your like?
I only have.
Hopefully we'll be able to do that. Would anyone like to explain how they did it?
Good.
Yeah.
Pretty
That's
simple.
right.
We just like went through the UI, do a review, and then we went back and found to make that review and then put it in the repeater and then just changed it to 0 and sent it. And while we were doing it, we actually found that you could also name as well and make feedback in someone else's name. That's also a challenge, but
So thoughts on how the server should probably have prevented this? What are checks and balances you might expect to see when you're working with a not tragically, deliberately defective learning tool? Like, what would you expect to see as a response if you were, trying to get one past it?
Well, the first problem is that the CAPTCHA is unique. Like, it seems like they just have like a static list of like CAPTCHA 1 is like this question. CAPTCHA 2 is this one. So all you need to do is just know the CAPTCHA in advance and then boom, which kind of defeats the whole point of one is stopping automated requests like that. So
Perfect, yeah. Any other thoughts on the kind of check you might have expected to see when you were, trying to be sly?
You check your, it should give you valid numbers.
You want the validation in the browser to match the validation on the server. It's an ever issue, I'm happy to say. In the back, what were you gonna say?
Session token, make sure that you are the person that logged in as.
Yeah, actually validate that you are authorized to post this kind of thing. Yeah, there are a lot of different ways that the poor beleaguered makers of juice apps have to fend off the hacker hordes in this room today. We named several of them. That was great. Well done. Flags for everyone. Everyone feel good with that one? Awesome. Yeah, beautifully done. This was great. Cool. Challenge 2. This is a quick one, but I want to get you to have more functionality so you can mess with this later. Find the scoreboard. It's not a burp thing. It's just a way of kind of thinking around corners. It's like if you look at the menu, there's no scoreboard. But I tell you, there is a scoreboard. How might you access it? I'll give you 5 minutes just as a thinking exercise. Because when you get this, you can see all the other challenges available and it tells you a better sense of like, cool, cool things you can do, and I would like to leave you with that.
Are you available?
It's regular. Container is still unversed. But when I go to the Chromium, it's launched.
If you go to Burp, there's something.
Where?
Burp proxy.
Oh, there's some.
Yeah, it's intercepting. It intercepts. It's waiting for your forward to drop the request.
Okay,
That's when you start manipulating, repeater, start manipulating the URL.
awesome. Thank you. User. Excellent.
How is the poking going, everyone? Has anyone figured out how to do it?
That's there. I want to change that. Is it just that we're changing?
Possibly, but it's not that complicated. It's a matter of looking at the patterns of like, what are the routes for other things and what might a route for a scoreboard look like.
Because it's just like it.
I can stop it here.
This is one of those things where you don't see it a ton anymore, but once upon a time, it was more often that if you just knew the path to get to something, there would be no authorization check and you could see things that a website did not wish for you to see. And it's in that vein, just like being I don't know, for me, it's like go back to being 15 and on dial-up and trying to be a nosy little weirdo. Oh, other weirdos, hello.
Just more that. I have it wrong.
I think there's a lot of perpetual weirdos in this room, or at least there's one at the front. Not gonna label anyone else, that's a self.
But she said up to. To do that. I think we just turn it on. Oh, sorry.
Wow. Use the repeater.
Okay, any luck?
Oh,
You
yeah.
got it? All right, cool.
I cheated a little bit this first code.
That's not cheating. That's not cheating. That's perfect. All right, we'll give it another minute and then we'll talk about different ways to deduce this, but I like that one very much.
You send that request, you get you 200.
Yeah.
That's it. You go-
You must live like
It's kind of like. Yeah. 'Cause you- I guess
I remember.
when you do Boland here though.
Rails. Digital side. Explore or something. See if you have.
Uh-oh.
Various services.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a real website.
Sure.
All right, has anyone else found the scoreboard?
I found what I didn't find it.
Do?
It's actually making it render.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like. Space. Yes, it has to be exactly how it's.
Oh, source code reader. It's cool to say no. Would you mind explaining what you did and what you
Yeah, so on the OWASP juice shop, it has a code or a link to GitHub. Go
Nice.
look at their front end component. Or- And then there's URL.
say done? Okay, just for the sake of moving on, it ends up being localhost :3000/pound/score/board.
What was the dash we were to?
And then just take a second and see like
Where?
just how many challenges there are packed into this. Like it's a really, really cool
Challenge.
challenge.
No question mark then?
Instead of challenges, just.
It's like, well, it's scored up.
I know, when you said your intro, I was like, that might work. But just like a very long way around the mountain kind of way.
Yeah, so we totally just like.
Ah, well, this is fun. It's fine.
Can you find it? Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
not.
potentially.
Or-
Flatten everything all the way there. Yeah. You burn the haystack, you'll find the needle probably.
He does.
All right, next thing. So before our third challenge, which gets us properly back into burp, I wanted to introduce you to one more tab. And it's called. So when you go back to your HTTP history, you can do the right click and send a request to intruder, same as you can to repeater. Does the same thing of lighting up orange, telling you like, hey man, you sent something over here. So intruder does a similar function to repeater, except it's not you changing a request in a bespoke way. It lets you automate it. You can add payload markers, which incidentally, those little double S things are called a silk row. I had to look that up and remind myself of that last night. And you use it to indicate, to tell intruder, replace the text here with different things from a list I will provide you. So you can give it a list of 100 or 1,000 or more, especially if you're not using the free version of Burp, which throttles the speed at which we shall intrude. But yeah, this is very much a way to do brute forcing using leaked passwords, which is still a thing that happens. Please use MFA because I don't want you to be sad. So it gets involved, but it's really useful. So we're going to stick with this and do some poking. So I just took an example one. So the important thing is you can note multiple parameters that you want to pop something into using, the add button. You just highlight the thing you want to change and hit add, and it'll bracket it with those silk rows. And then from there, you want to give it a list of things to try over on the payload tab. In our case, so we live in an information abundant era, and there are big lists of parameters out there of leaked passwords, of SQL injection attempts, just of ways to try to get around something like this. For this, we're going to need to go grab one of those and then have it shoot those parameters one by one into the parameter that we give it. Say more, but I wanted to give you just a sense of like, this is where it starts. So our challenge, we need to find the admin's password. And that means first a little bit of recon, poke around and find the admin's email address in the UI. And then when you're doing this, normally you will go and look at an array of security lists. This is not a class in Googling. I'm just going to kind of direct you more toward what you need. But this is actually a really great repo of different lists to use for these needs. And you can find it just by Googling Daniel Miessler and sec lists, or just typing it out depending on how fast you are. So that's where we're starting. So first, find the admin's email, look around in the UI, and then we will get a list of passwords, pop them in, and find out what the admin's password is. Does that give you enough to start? I will set a timer and I will check in with you all. I've also posted the GitHub link in the conference resources channel.
in the scroll.
How are folks doing finding the admin? Let me look yet. Look, excellent. I'll give you one additional hint just because we aren't going to be here for 8 hours. The list I recommend using in that repo is the best 1050 just because it's not infinite. Okay.
So,
You're trying to find the actual administrator. And then, did you already get the list from? So here, I get up. Oh, here.
Passwords.
So how's everyone doing? Like roughly, where are you? Are you getting stuck on anything like that? Like select one set to the intruder. Ideally. If anyone would like the email just to get to the good part, let me know. It'll give you some information about how it's structured. If you see the admin email, you'd be like, that's an admin email. Or just randomly click all sorts of stuff.
How do you stop an intruder like run while it's going?
You generally just close the new window that it opens and it'll ask like, you want to save all this? And, you know, I'm doing something like this, so I say no. Does that mean you got that 200?
I put in rocku.txt.
Okay, so I think. This guy. No. Like go over, see what happened. Introduction with this and I just change.
Yeah, it's
It's
.com.
Trying to so.
.shop.
It was something like, oh gosh, they essentially said, so there we go, that's not great. So that could potentially be, so that's how I got that. So that could be very much.
I still don't know what it is.
Policy
No,
page.
we don't know, but we do know the names now.
if you go into about, there's actually the scroll of the, including your 0-star review. And it has partially obfuscated emails, so you'll get the domain from that and you can see part of admin in it.
Specific.
True.
Um,
Just to hear right here was how to be.
interesting. Yeah, it's tucked in lots of different places. Like, yeah, going from the reviews, like it's admin@juice-sh.op. So it sounds like we're the tiny ones maybe. I wonder if it works for both.
Yeah. I can load up the list, I guess, from.
Yeah, it's different.
That's just too much. And it should have been. Where did we call it?
That makes sense.
Privacy policy page.
It's just hit start.
So we want to send a login and we improve.
The link. Yeah, get one of those requests that would do a login and then we can just jam it full of what should not be anyone's passwords, but are. Hold on. Go into SecList and then go into the videos.
Made it there.
With like the, like GitHub people, we'll have like, it's like right here. Yeah, we'll have like top 10 for routers, top 10 for this type of infrastructure, top 10 for this, or just have, or they even have list.
Oh, sorry, it's under common credentials.
Password list.
Yeah, sec list, passwords, confidential, best .txt.
If you're impatient, I think.
Which one?
Need a.
Right here?
Very patient. Oh, it's like, it's kind of a bit. But yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think it ended, but if it's not, my next thing is to take the names.
It's a while. Okay. Still looking around the website to see if you can see.
Okay, I put the full URL to the 1050 list in conference session resources.
Yeah, so you would think that it would be admin. That's what I would think.
Shop.
Admin at juice-sh.op.
Okay. Find that anyway.
It's partially obfuscated in the carousel of reviews under About Us.
This is actual thing.
And I'm sure somewhere else too, but that's where I found it.
I would think that that's what would be more related to the entity.
Just like that. Keep going.
Yeah, that's what I wondered if that one works too. It might.
So I didn't catch any of what she said about.
Let me double work for you.
Would have.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah.
Yes. Those feel. Yes, this would all.
So what you can keep doing is you can keep going. Just like systematically go to.
It's good here.
That still counts. No, it does.
But it is quite fun because.
Is there a way to say that you think is stop? So on here, is there a way to set it up that says when I get the right status code, stop?
It's a little bit tricky, it's probably.
So because you can like,
Because that's kind of.
like skeptical activator or something. If this like particular email doesn't work out, right?
Yeah, I think email just because of the fact that.
It's like, yeah, I could
There you go.
be.
Is that, no, it's just being. It's pitched, it's way too.
So we don't have any patient.
It's 200.
One here?
I thought that already.
Okay.
Yeah, it's many.
I'm gonna go try.
It's gonna take a while.
So who has Intruder doing its thing?
So it was just like keep instead of like looking at this, like this is like, this is not gonna give you anything in like useful until it's done.
Could anyone else use a hand with things?
Right there.
And then he's going to want me. I saw that the customer.
Is she right?
Okay, that's the one that they're.
He's probably still.
There's anything interesting about it?
It's just off.
Okay.
Can you?
On this proxy, if you intercept, it's gonna wait for you to.
Okay, so now where do I copy it? I don't know what it is like.
Then you need to find, yeah, that one.
Because sometimes what happens is like in the source code or in the parameter, they hide.
Oh, see, there's your,
You can, it was even in the first review.
it's another user.
Well, so the thing too is like, is this user actually?
Can we give it 5 more minutes? Does that sound good to everyone?
Like, are they actually hiding anything? Maybe it's just hidden
You try to go to.
in probably
In here?
displaying,
No, I think
but fully visible in the request.
I remember going
you
to,
go to the login.
every time we go to,
Paste that one.
let me click.
So where was the? What is that?
Let's see.
Perfect.
So that's photo. And then I would go to, I think the other one.
Let's take a look at the like request info and see if there's anything.
Yeah.
That's a moment. That's.
You try to control. Before you proceed, go back to the app. Just have this on,
Okay.
then go back to the app. Click, type whatever password is.
That's when you change your password.
Log in, then go back to the app. Now let's click forward.
Oh.
And then before you do that, right click on it. You're gonna send it to input.
I think that's the about us page. I'm gonna click on that again.
Sure. This is the phone.
Okay.
So, and then we'll go.
Gonna tell us is the one that's gonna. That is only the portion that you're interested in changing in the request. With the list that you're gonna copy,
Okay.
that's the only thing it's gonna try.
It's like, whatever this is, it might not be actually tested. You can just copy and put it in your decode and see if it's like.
Okay.
Is that a
Payloads.
try a smart decode?
So the list.
We just.
Go back to the.
Doesn't work, I just run.
No, it just copy and paste. And now you're gonna start the attack.
I've done that, but.
Then continue. 401 means it's unauthorized. Until you hit 200, okay, and then you count this.
But at first, it's kind of doesn't really.
Okay, basically. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I haven't really seen flags. It's just like. A lot of them continue code.
Yeah, it seems kind of weird, yeah. I agree.
As long as you put it here, it's in between.
Let's see, what else have we got?
Between whatever you're gonna change 0 to whatever it is.
Oh, it has to
And then
do this.
you can start your attack.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, you can see that's gonna try one more. Just between the.
It's kind of.
What if they're all for once?
When you write on that.
Like a
Oh, it's still
thousand.
running, okay.
Successful launch. That's what I did. Is one of them was
Okay.
mine.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, we do all the labs and stuff.
You get more.
We do all the stuff,
Admin to shop, yeah.
Here we go.
but we do so much of
Now
that.
we do.
Well, now you know.
Yeah.
And I know that I need to
You
go to my
this is for
other
WoW
thing.
application,
Where's
then
that? Did it just?
For network.
So what you, so
Firewall.
what's gonna happen
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
So he can be
Should
confused.
show up in.
Just so many different
In
tools.
your.
We use Wireshark.
Wireshark is for networking.
One to do with an onion and then some kind of.
Tor.
One we do now.
It's not even the.
So you can see what you like.
Because.
That's what we're looking for, what an app to do, and that's all I'm trying to figure out.
It's good. Good try.
I click on the item and add it to my card.
Okay, so I think actually.
Obviously, it's banana milk.
As long as you like the industry, you're in good.
So far, it's really interesting. Enough things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's
I
a good
can
enter.
You can go back to your tab.
That's a
And then
good.
with that, I did here.
All right, let's reconvene. How did that go? Does anyone know the admin's password? Would anyone like to put your arms over your head and go, I've got admin, and tell us what it is? You're welcome to. You can be as big or small as you want.
We got it. It's admin 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? 1, 2, 3. It's 1, 2, 3. Yes, it's 1, 2, 3. Admin 1, 2, 3.
Perfect.
Admin at juice dash.
Right.
So, or like sh
Real
dot.
worry, then I'll be-
Perfect.
What I did with the last.
Yeah, and it's the kind of password that seems like it should be a joke, but SolarWinds is not laughing.
So 1, 2, 3.
You know, your hope when you're exploring stuff like this is that you're not going to find things like this, but sometimes you will find things like this. All right, folks who did it, would you like to walk us through doing it? I can share my screen. You can tell me what to do.
Maybe do that and just put that one for a second.
All right. Anyone game to instruct me so everyone can watch?
Try.
What should I do?
So, well, first in the UI, we found the feedback page where it has like, maybe the username blurred out, but it has the remaining email that still like exists. So we just put admin, and that's what we can figure out the second half of the email. For passwords, we go back to the login page, we submit a dummy request, and then in Burp Suite, we go to proxy. We just do we right click and then send it to intruder, and then we go into GitHub to capture the list, paste it into intruder, and then adjust the parameters so it replaces the password field. And then we run start.
To watch it march on very, very slowly
Yes.
and get a warning where Burp Suite's like, you should pay for this. And you're like, nuts. Yeah, Burp Suite's a great thing to have an employer pay for. Or almost every video I've watched about this, the person says, get a couple of bounties and then pay for it. Like, don't pay for it out of pocket, which, yeah, I like the sweet confidence of that. Marches along. Wait for success. Awesome.
So it was 1, 2, 3.
Positions and then.
Yeah. So what you can do is just select whatever text you want it to pop into and then add those. And that's it. It just says like between the Silk Rows, please just put, you know, this march of credentials in there.
Something
And you can do multiple ones in a request. If you're trying, you know, little sneaky things from different lists.
Probably, yeah.
But yeah, there are lots and lots of sources of things like this. Daniel Muesler's sec lists, Kali Linux has some built in. When I was poking around looking for the RockU file, there are some where you can just get it like through the command line. There are lots of ways to find these things. They're just out there. Yeah, great work, everyone. All right, any other questions about this? Things that are unclear, possibilities you're curious about, anything you'd like to discuss with the room? Yeah.
The achievement we got. And said that acquire the admin's password without changing it or without using a SQL injection.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see.
Because I thought it was just 1, 2, 3.
No.
Because we were checking around to see if we could possibly change the admin's password
That
without,
makes more sense.
If you try and.
we don't already know it.
Mhm.
But it looks like it's hashed.
Yeah, that's the
So,
password.
I don't know, like, could you use like intruder
Because we,
or repeater?
like, it actually works, like, when I do. Just do
And if you're trying to reverse engineer the hash, generally the way that I know to do that is called rainbow tables. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, just big set of just like common passwords and their hash. So if you get the hash, you can look it up and go like, oh, this is the password. Like, that's one way to do it. Ideally, when you're storing passwords as a person who designs systems, you are adding like a salt or something so that the hash is not based solely on the plain text password. So that you can't do that. And if you're really fancy, the salt is changed every time. But not everyone does everything the most beautiful way. So it's still possible sometimes. So like, that's one way to do it. Yeah, there are, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to bring the scoreboard up is that it categorizes the challenges. So you can look at ones that do like injections and start poking that way. But there are lists in the way of the one that we were looking at with passwords of just like different SQL injection strings to make different wonderful, weird things happen. And that's something that you can just, if you capture a request for what you put into a password blank or a search field, you can just flood it with that and see what happens. Does that?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, we are at the end of our trying things out, which I kind of expected. But if you look at the slides, there is another one that goes back to what we originally did with Rivera that adds kind of an extra layer of poking at requests to do stuff. And that is yours to discover on your own. Yeah, I wanted to leave you with a few things. One of the reasons Burp Suite is so awesome is that it is extendable, and there are so many extensions. I listed a few of them here. ActiveScan++, it extends the passive scanning capabilities of Burp Suite to do more stuff better. Burp Retire.js, I've seen Retire.js pop up in a few different places. Most often, there's a site called CR Excavator that evaluates Chrome extensions from a security perspective, and Retire.as is one of the things that it lists, going like, hey, you all should really update your dependencies because it's really bad. Authorize scans for authorization issues, PDF metadata. There are a few different metadata ones out there, but this one specifically looks passively for metadata and PDF files to see what kind of weird stuff you can find. Uploader is specifically for checking file upload capabilities of whether they're visible to directory traversal, which is a really good fun one where you put in like a path like .. /.. to try to nose your way into a server's directory structure. Yeah, people love writing these. It's a nice way to achieve hacker glory and make the world more interesting. So there are tons, and these are all links in the slides. Anyone who has burped before, do you have extensions you like that you would recommend? What you got?
The one I like is called parameterizer. So basically what it does is it looks at things that are parameters in wherever you're looking at, and it can give you information sometimes on like if it finds like secrets in whatever engagement you're doing, or it can be like, oh, I think it's using this hash algorithm, so you can like try to like brute force password. It just gives you information about the parameters, because the game is get as much information as you can to like target your attack.
Awesome. For going further, so portspigger.com, the site and company behind Burp Suite, they have a ton of tutorials. It literally used to be a book, and they've adapted it to be a live online thing. There is a ton of learning stuff. People also love writing about this stuff because there's so much to do. It is a great way to make yourself look more awesome. I recommend writing blogs, stuff like this. It makes you look really smart. I've gotten jobs over this. Juice Shop, the other reason I really like it is that people write extensively about it. There are blog posts. There are so many YouTube videos. When I was putting this together, there are ones from Hacksplained that I really liked. And he also has a nice, gentle European accented voice. And, so you can learn something and then gently go to sleep. Yeah.
Between the Juice Shop and the DBA, which one do you prefer?
The DBA?
And vulnerable application.
I haven't used that one as much, but like the one time I bumped into it, I thought well of it. Do you find people write and make videos about it quite as much?
I think the big differentiator is that this one is Java based, I think, and the other one is like Blast Python, so you can even mess with the Python code if you're.
There's a series of YouTube videos that you can find, like a full walkthrough of the DBWA, and we use it internally for like getting security training. Yeah, and people really liked it. So it's smaller, very walkthrough, like 21 challenges.
Yeah, which is really nice for internal things. And yeah, that's a great thing to mention. Like there are many other deliberately vulnerable web apps. OWASP has a lot of them. There are ones that are language specific, like Gusto is a Ruby shop. And we use one we've adapted called Gusto Goat. Goat is a common suffix for vulnerable web apps. But yeah, the great thing is people love talking and writing about these things. So like when you're learning this kind of stuff, you will not be the first person to walk this path. And that's amazing because people are pretty generous with the things that they do. Yeah, so lots of viewers to discover. So we've got 26 minutes. Burp questions, juice shop questions, other security jobs in the world questions. Like what can we help you with so that you feel like I spent an amazing 2 hours a day of security when you walk out the door and steal more snacks from Reddit? Yeah.
So this was like the password thing that we did was like a brute force attack. Is there a way to do a password set of usernames, small set of passwords, and have it try each combination?
Yeah, if you do like the 2 different parameters in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does the matchup like that.
I'll have to.
I'm curious, I saw some stuff with like crypto NFTs. Like, have you guys tried those before? Or what do those look like?
And I have a mild allergy to it.
Yeah. I'm curious. My husband works at Alchemy, and I was like, oh, alchemy.com. It's like integrated. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, we can answer questions, or I mean, if you all would prefer, if you would like that as a time better, we can go back to the other challenge too. It's up to you all.
What would be like specific recommendations for API security? Like in terms of like building integrations or just working with APIs in general?
Actually, I want to ask Carlo about that when he has a second. When you have a moment. He deals with it more than I do. Yeah, unless, Isaac, do you have any thoughts on that?
It was a question.
API security, or like dealing with APIs, if you have any specific recommendation, like integration building, not like designing APIs, but.
I usually leverage and manipulate the way that some object to make it.
Yeah, it's also.
How do they learn?
Yeah.
It's like a text versus a JSON. So usually these two comments go ahead. While you're not doing UI.
I've been able to, I set it up on my work app.
Yeah.
It's, you just need this software over there.
If you not have access to it.
It's not below.
Yeah, there's like a 2-hour video.
I was
It's on my list, that's just all about.
Which are.
So then I know there's a lot to it, it's already.
Those are the free tools that you could, there are other.
Because we do use these tools, but it makes it easier. Yeah, we don't allow, we don't software stuff like anybody else to actually download.
Right.
There's that I.
Oh, we're under the same one. Yeah, so I've used Burp Suite before.
So that's the one she put, and then she just did, Docker.
For the juice shop, yeah.
For the shop, and then that's, yeah, then we went through like a couple more things.
Cool.
It's fine.
I'm trying to get more.
Yeah.
Team.
Yeah.
I'm more on the blue team side of the proxy side too.
Blue team.
It's just like.
Well, I figured out.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of, when you don't touch the certain it's kind of like, you're kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I'm also concerned though about like transport.
Yeah. God might help me. Yeah.
Yeah, like that's legit, like that's a legit way of doing things. That's like, he's like.
Figuring out she's the same as either ask for.
Yeah.
Continue.
Tapper and you can.
I'll leave you to that. She did post, just in case you're interested. I think she posted it on the Slack channel, under resources. What was that? For sessions, resources. Should post it.
Yeah.
Hold it. Yeah, so that way you wanna do it at home.
I'll definitely do it on my laptop.
Yeah, then you can see her all. You set up, because then she did, I guess, have us do. Like attack with the word list.
Oh,
She does get the thing. That's
It's also more trying to switch to
actually good next one.
right now. I'm
Yeah, it's pretty good mess.
Sometimes I'm
We
like
have
just on the cusp of exciting work where I'm at, which is like API questions because I'm building API integrations and of course, you know, sometimes focusing right now is that and like SQL sort of
API security, but it
Yeah.
was
Switching
your
plan
in 2 weeks.
yeah, policies and recipes. Yeah, but I also want to check as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Internet
me too.
time,
I
right?
see, yeah, I like
Things
heard
about
about
boards,
the.
things that we like, don't fill out.
That one hurts.
It's like even
Yeah, I know, the acting firms, like, it doesn't really matter.
Their company's not gonna give their.
Like, for example,
Yeah, and there's one of them said that it seems that.
Yeah, don't want to be
It doesn't
pigeonholed.
matter how
Yeah.
the documents try to find more better things.
Yeah,
It's not like
yeah,
necessarily
I mean, they
incentivized.
it depends on what's like the selling point.
Sure,
If
there's-
you're gonna come out with a this skill that is
Yeah,
going
it's sort of
to transfer.
is under positions tab, attack type, pitchfork, or cluster bomb.
So I just ran our,
And
that had to be something, other email, when you try to reach it and you do it, it shows you this.
so you can figure out what's yeah, that would make the most sense, honestly, because I have like 5 years of experience in IT to this point, so that's kind of where.
When I used to use.
Oh, really?
Oh, okay.
The ones that we use here.
And did you configure 2 different ones under payloads with payloads and whatever else?
Sure. Like, at its heart, it's functional. Same way, it's the same stuff. The same,
For long.
yeah.
There might be.
Like SDN and like, I don't know, there are different ways that you can approach them, but like understand the foundational.
I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Like I just grabbed.
But I was that generate. And then, yeah, and then we have all the AWS.
Not.
Yeah. And squared business.
I'll be on the side, I was rolling it.
Yeah, I love it.
So, I've had to fix stuff.
Always, okay.
Yeah.
So we're gonna take those.
Yeah, I was,
I
those
feel
are
like
the
and even stop it for them.
had like when they were initially launching the product, like spin up the thing, it costs nothing. So that's like what I played with.
So, yeah, what I'm doing.
I sat on GCP and like,
And there's so many.
so that's what I have more exposed to.
I mean, so security misbehavior.
It's more of the same but different.
That's usually where the breaches are, right? When somebody just forgets that they should have like our bad or forgets to like close and move on a trans gateway.
It's for money instead of it's for.
Right.
It's for money. And then other things we've been like.
People are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's another thing you would
You would know that. They're sitting in servers and
I
want that one.
First, you want to set it to pitchfork, which is just 1111, or cluster bomb, which does each one with each other one. And then sets your.
But then fills it out, but then gives you.
So.
Yeah, I mean, mine are, I just. Yeah, some of them could be totally different, you know?
Yeah, and then you get the time to build your mindset.
Yeah, like
Certain jobs for the entry level.
these are actually, these would change if it's.
Well, if necessary or get some is for you, they're putting fires.
That's horrible. Yeah.
I just.
Sorry, we all.
Different security role somewhere, and
Yeah,
it's,
that's well, it's, she, so it kind of like started.
Now it's true.
getting to the bus program.
It'll match each
So,
grant.
actually get to validating
Which just goes one to one to one. Goes down each list.
Oh, and then the other one.
Just turn it blue.
And so.
Cluster bomb, it goes up exponentially because it's matching all of them.
Oh, yeah, like, you're in a good spot for.
It's not catchy.
Yeah.
Things like that.
It's like, I'm just
about
like-
market in LA.
It's awesome that,
Well, since we want it to be as flexible as possible, so we're gonna name this one EI.
So all of the.
Yeah, it's, I
like,
think
That test case for an entire integration environment for all of LinkedIn docs.
So in this case, there's only one set.
So it was a disaster, but the red team used that by like.
Got the same one.
Yeah, something like that.
Microsoft.
They got it late.
The nice thing about
we're
Yeah.
this team.
They were DHS, and so I was just on staff. I did some public university, but they had these private professor parents, these guys were like, supposed to call people and call them.
Yeah.
They pulled these guys from who knows where. And they said, yeah, non-decision, it's the same as incompetent.
well, I've never heard that
So you said, it's like, well, I work with some non-decisional people, very non-decisional.
I like that. I'll have to use that. Every company has to deal with.
Until they can figure out.
US based.
These guys,
Clients.
in my VM, disappeared. Well, what happens with the VM, of course, it runs on a disk space.
It is.
Claimed it's been maintenance for position, but they didn't realize that they were running too many VMs and over provisioning, they had no.
We had a couple of questions about using Intruder with two or more.
Yes.
I know.
And I wanted to explain one more. So there are a few different ways you can do it. They're all under attack type. So Sniper works for what we were doing initially, which is just putting a series of values in one place, just like bing, 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 bing. But then there's also, if you're doing more than one, there are two different ways to approach it. Pitchfork will take the two lists and just match the first to the first, second to the second, and so on.
Okay.
So you can see if you go to payloads, you can sets, give them different sets of values. But if you wanted to do true brute forcing, which a thoughtfully engineered system will rate limit you to hell and you'll get to do this 5 times and they'll just be like, yeah, no. But for Juice Shop, it would work if you've got some time. Instead, you want to do cluster bomb, which matches each value in the first list with each value in the second. But that means you get a real n squared kind of situation because that blossoms to, in the case of the 2 lists I put in, more than 47 million requests. You'll be waiting for a while, especially with the community edition. It may just be running for the end of time. But when you're looking at things like a list of emails that have been enumerated from a system and matching them with a list of passwords you've gotten from somewhere, and you want to try each password with each email, you want to do cluster bomb and maybe have a little knitting to pass the time as you wait. But that's what you need to do.
It's like cheese.
Specifically to what y'all
Turn it on to Jackson 5.
when y'all
The
were
Beatles.
hunting around
It's like
the website for
John in the head reboot.
emails.
Mhm.
Like when you're hunting on a
And then we
website,
start
look at the
looking at the
emails.
compute cluster.
If it's
Just put
related to
one
the company, like add that to your email list that you would want to attack with this type of thing.
Yep.
Attack, because it's very restricted. You know this person's at company. And you don't have to bother.
Like an all from the entire campus.
Yeah, it's stuff to collect as you go along. And it's one of the reasons that getting feedback from a system that confirms or denies whether there's an email in the system is considered not the worst security issue, but not ideal, because you don't want the system to confirm there's that email, because if you know it's real, it goes on that list of something to use later. It's something, if you wanted to, you can extrapolate from like LinkedIn, look me up and you know what, just how my company makes email addresses. You can guess my email and probably anyone else's. This is, you should plan around it, but it is one of the reasons why it's considered not good to give feedback on like, yeah, that's totally a valid email address. But yeah, because the more you know, the more stuff you can possibly.
list of words to not use.
Thank you for clarifying. That is an excellent point. And illustrations. Oh, yeah, you're all welcome to come and get some more at the end. I cut up a lot of these. All right, cool. We've got 12 minutes. What else can we equip you with or demonstrate or explore or anything else? You are free to just ask us and each other about jobs if that's useful. You know, it is a professional event, like feel free.
We just kind of. Which is, she's right. That's how I am. I actually have parallels. This could be what could be.
I guess when you talk about how Burp Suite got you a job,
It just becomes
I
like.
guess like
just like,
what
okay,
specific,
it doesn't-
like how did you demonstrate that to, like was it just like, oh, just say that on your resume and they were interested in it and like or like what specific proficiency in Burp Suite?
It did not come up in the interview. My first job in security was on the vendor security team at Salesforce, which did, among other things, some what I consider lower level pen testing, not like a full engagement, but basically just going like, can we find any of like the more egregious stuff we don't want to have happen? And Burp would feed into that. It was not involved in the interview process. We talked about other things like code review and you have a server, it is being approached by, admin has to be able to mess with it. It supports a site. It's getting traffic from these directions. It supports how to secure it. Like it was more thinking. But it was my experience that putting Burp on my resume gave me a legitimacy. Just like, oh, a complex, not entirely friendly security tool. Like I have a great affection for it, but there was a reason I wanted to walk you all through the tabs before going, go do stuff because like, yes, we don't have time for that.
Still a lot more.
There's so much. There's something about just saying like, I have used this serious tool that is used by security practitioners from different angles that just got across the point. Like, I have done this, I am interested in this, and I have pursued this. Basically that, like it ended up being an important part of the job, not constantly, but often enough. But a lot of it was just like, sometimes the list of skills you have at the top of your resume is just to say like, I'm serious, take me seriously. I have done relevant things. It might come up in the actual interview, but for me, that was my experience, is that it made my resume get profiled in a certain
Windows network, but it's also the Citrix things. You have two sets of.
and that's why I wanted to do this.
They were very.
As a manager, hires.
Delivered like 110-page report. So I'll just go here, click there.
Usually we try to
It's all like super easy stuff.
of skills, and we know
They weren't thrilled that they had to deal with this. No, we can see the deadline.
but they can be very strong on one side.
We
We are
have that
also
contract.
a little bit
That's like always.
other aspects. And so when you're looking at what I was looking for,
People like.
something like,
Top.
it's
They had like.
it's possible to find people with like a resume where you can see one skill very clearly. Then you find a little bit for other skills. And so if I'm looking at a resume where like engineering experience or something, and I say it's engineering to do something else, right? And I'm just trying to find something about security. Anything works. It could be, it's experience in some authentication team. It could be a tool that security people use. I think Burp is one of them. If I see in the list of tools, Burp, I'm thinking, this person knows a little bit about security. They probably know about like security culture. They may have some basics in pen testing. And so it's a profile I would select. Then in interviews, Burp and you have used it and you can talk a little bit about it. That also can get you.
What are some of the other tools that you found to do that indicator? Like I'm thinking if someone said they had experience with polylins, that would be one. Yeah.
Browser developer tools. This one less. Not less.
Yeah, CTF experience for sure.
proxy.
I mean, one of my tells on my resume when I was shifting from infra to security is at the bottom of my resume, it says I've won the DEF CON spelling bee twice, which is true. And it's weird, just that it's just kind of like I've got DEF CON, like, and it's weird, it's useful, like it shouldn't be that much. It's just, part of it is like, yes, I can do this, and part of it is just like, I am this kind of person. Like, profile me correctly in the way I'm asking you to. And so it's a really weird thing, but it's gonna be on my resume for a long time, because also I used to be an editor, and the collision of those two things is really funny to me. But yeah, just anything to say like, I care about this. I have done things like this on my own, you know, even sometimes like in my free time, I pursued this when I could have been doing anything else. Yeah, I was about.
So I think that's like not a tool and software based thing, but an idea is the idea of threat modeling. And you can threat model literally all the things. But like specifically for this website, threat modeling is basically like you're trying to look at this website and figure out at which points of this application are vulnerable and in what ways. Because what you're trying to do is take advantage of the ways that this thing is potentially vulnerable. And you can threat model websites, you can threat model AWS infrastructure, you can threat model, I don't know, your life. Like, just, you know, it's one of those skills that you want to get good at it. Used to, like, when you see a system, think of where things are potentially vulnerable in what way, and then if you want to like go extra credit, think of like what you might want to do to mitigate.
And the other thing, it's interesting to say this at a conference like this, people who are not cis men, who are not straight, who are not white, are better threat modelers naturally, because you do it all the time. And it's one of those reasons why, you know, aside from just like it being the right thing to do, it's better to have a really varied group in a room that's doing threat modeling, because one group will think of things the other group doesn't. It makes me think of how many apps and sites get launched without a way to block people. And I'm always like, oh, you don't hire women, bro? Yeah, got it. Cool. You've never had anything kind of weird happen on LinkedIn. It's great. When you have to do it all the time, it's a little bit easier to adapt. It's just like, how can I abuse this API? Rather than, you know, how can I abuse publicly available information or stuff like that. So yeah, it's a particular way to have a kind of bleed full leg up. Just a different adaptation and adding it to a different environment. That was a really good question. Thank you. Stickers. All right, we have a few minutes. Anything else we can do for you all? Well, in the meantime, this was great. Thank you for coming in good faith and trying interesting, weird stuff and sharing about it very bravely. This is basically everything I hoped this would be. And cut up so many stickers. So I threw some unicorns in there too. So but yeah, I will be around. I'm not sure how long you all will have to stay for the rest of the afternoon, but like, yeah, if you think of an intruder question later or anything else. Cool. But yeah, that's me. I'm findable and glad to hear from you.